Utah at Oregon State, another great matchup in the Pac-12. This is just such a good conference. Oregon State lost last week, and now they're going to be 3.5-point dogs at home. Utah is interesting because Utah is not anywhere near their potential, and yet they're out there winning games. This will be their toughest test to date. This is a tougher test than Florida. This is a tougher test than UCLA. Remember, both of those games were at home. Salt Lake is an incredible home field advantage for the Utes. They're really good at home. Not that they're not good on the road. It's just going to be more difficult. And this is a team in Oregon State that will present some problems. They can also play physical. They can run the football. Now, losing last week doesn't help, but I will tell you, the effort that Utah gave in the win against UCLA and the emotion that they showed after the game, there could be a bit of a letdown here. This is one of those games that I'm looking at that I think all of us in our minds are like, oh, man, yeah, Utah should win. Oregon State lost last week. Oregon State generally does not lose by more than 3. In fact, both of their losses last year, 3 points. I believe it was Oregon and Washington. Their loss this year now to a very good Washington State team with a good quarterback ended up being 3 points. Like, it's a possession game. And at that point, you've got to trust Nate Johnson if Rising doesn't play. And that brings up the biggest question of the day. Is Cam Rising back? It's like every single week we are wondering if Cam Rising is back for Utah. He's been splitting reps with Nate Johnson. They desperately need him to start playing because I don't think Utah can go through a Pac-12 slate with this amount of quality teams without Rising. They need him to raise the ceiling of that team. They have Brant Keithy hasn't played yet. They've been banged up on the offensive and defensive line. Jaquindon Johnson, he's been dealing with nagging ankle injury. Like, they're not healthy. They squeaked by UCLA based on a great defensive game plan and effort. And I just like, this one could get a little bit dicey. If Rising doesn't play, I think Oregon State wins. I don't know if he's playing or not. If Rising, again, I'm going to say it, if Rising doesn't play, I think Oregon State wins this game at home. If Rising plays, now it's more of a coin flip. But there's no way that Utah, at least in my estimation, blows them out. And that's because of the history of what Oregon State has been over the last 2 years. Jonathan Smith has something. They lose last week. No one's expecting them to win. They go back home. This is a prime example of a team that's going to get right. And if Utah is feeling themselves a little bit, if they're a little bit overconfident after beating UCLA in the fashion that they did, and if they don't have their quarterback, then Oregon State's going to win. Oregon State can run it really well, man. Last week, 242 on the ground, 6.2 a carry. DJ U's got to play better. He played well in the week 1. We all thought, oh, look at that. You know, he's back. He's better. And he hasn't quite been as good since, completing only 51% of his passes. But again, Oregon State will be there. They will be there in the end. And if Rising doesn't play, the Beavers are going to win that game. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. And you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.